Joining me now is Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. He is a member of multiple committees, including the Judiciary Committee. Senator, on top of the signal chat, we have now learned from this new report in the Wall Street Journal that Secretary Hegseth has included his wife in multiple high-level and highly sensitive meetings involving the exchange of information. What's your reaction, and what message does it send to our military, our adversaries, and to our allies if Secretary Hegseth remains at the top of the Department of Defense?
Well, I think the reaction that matters here is the reaction of the military. There's an old adage around the military that officers eat last, that you got to take care of your people, that by virtue of having high rank or high office, you don't get to lord it over the men and women who are serving in uniform. And so when you see completely different ground rules for essentially everyone in the military, as opposed to these political appointees, when they violate Pentagon warnings about signal being an inappropriate place for classified information, when they tell spectacular lies about whether an imminent attack direction time is actually classified information or not, and when they bring uncleared family members into meetings where very sensitive information is going to be discussed, those are all things that every soldier, every CIA officer knows can get them cashiered, can get them fired, can get them court-martialed. And yet here are the people that pretend to be leading them in this sort of cosplay government that just say, no, I'm big, I'm tight with Trump, the rules don't apply to me. So it's not so much that his wife may have leaked something out of one of these meetings. It's that everybody across the military is now wondering, what the hell is going on? Do we get to have our family join us in meetings? Why is there a double standard? And that's a conversation you don't need.
Well, can I ask a question? You make some terrific points about the way in which this particular episode is going to have a debilitating effect on the morale of those enlisted persons in the military. There's also the debilitating effect of the cuts to the VA that we've seen over the last couple of weeks from DOJ and the work of Elon Musk. How is the Democratic Party marshaling all of these assaults on the military, a population, many of whom were very much in favor of Trump at the ballot box? How are you marshaling that to make the case going forward that maybe a change is needed?
Yeah, first, I wouldn't agree that it necessarily debilitates the morale of intelligence officers and our military. I think our intelligence officers and our military are pretty impressive and are pretty good at taking care of their own morale. What it debilitates is confidence in leadership. And that becomes a real problem over time in the military. I think, we've had veterans like Mark Kelly and our ranking member on armed services going hard after the just completely irresponsible behavior revealed by the signal chat. And then the attack on veterans, I think, is playing out very well because, I think that Trump tried to appeal to veterans. Yeah. And then he's fired more veterans than I think every president in history, let alone any president in history. He's threatening destruction of the VA and interruption of benefits. And a lot of veterans are seniors and they're on Social Security. And so letting his little muskrats run around in Social Security and threaten benefit interruptions, all of that, I think, piles on to a sense that this is not the guy we elected. This is not what I expected when I voted for this guy. And that gives us a real opportunity to have a reboot with those voters.
So let's switch gears, and you can put on your Senate Judiciary hat. There's some news that broke late last night relating to the president's Retribution campaign against top law firms. Federal judges have issued temporary restraining orders against two of Trump's executive orders, which targeted and punished two major law firms, Jenner & Block and Wilmer Hale, that had participated in work against the president's administration and his agenda. One of the judges wrote that the executive order was, quote, disturbing and troubling, but notably, both both judges left in place the president's rulings stripping the lawyers in those firms of their security clearances. What do these rulings mean in this fight to rein in Trump? And the fact that the judges did not invalidate the stripping of the security clearances, is that notable going forward?
Well, for starters, it's just a direct attack on the independence and integrity of the legal profession. And so it is quite, I would say, sickening to see huge firms like Paul Weiss and Skadden Arps, which pay partners millions and millions of dollars. These are members of the profession who are among the most successful and well-paid members of the profession. And so when the profession comes under attack, you'd think it would be an appropriate thing for them to stand up the way Wilmer Hale did, the way Covington has, the way Williams and Connolly has done, going to bat for another firm. And instead to see them cave when they're the most privileged and cosseted and powerful members of the profession, it's really unfortunate. These orders are very good because they give a foundation for litigation against officials who purport to be following the orders. So if you're an official and you take action with respect to a firm that causes it harm, that's a violation of civil rights, you've got what's called a Bivens action that the firm can bring, that the victim of the harm can bring. And if you'd say, well, you know, I didn't know, there was a question about whether this was constitutional, those TROs settle the question of whether it's constitutional. So I would look for further litigation if there's any implementation of it. There's a soft power problem that we've seen just now in the Senate with a memo coming out from the Republican Senate side telling everybody, hey, this is the client list for the firms that Trump has illegally and unconstitutionally attacked. They left out those words. And you should consider whether you should deal with these clients. So it's a direct attack on the client base of these firms. And that's, you know, not directly ordered by the EO. It's just sort of the soft power echo effect. As to the recalling of the privileges that they have to get access to classified information, you know, many don't. It's probably not a big deal. The president has enormous authority dealing with all of that. So I think there's a reason that the judges decided to pick their fights with the most obvious constitutional violations and slam dunk those and then let the rest play out over time.
All right. Thank you. Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. Coming up.